Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's going to be one of the sort of short and to the point, really let's sort of see what messages are coming through type of reading. And I was kind of called to do this one. I just sort of felt really strongly that messages were wanting to come through from the Archangel realm. And so that's what the topic of this reading is about. What Archangel has a message for you, what that message is, how you can use that in your life, what areas in your life it's touching upon, and what other sort of like angelic and sort of interdimensional sort of energies and supports can help you with that to guide you on your way. So to come up with the piles, I basically shuffled and asked Spirit to show me in order that they came 3 archangels that were the ones that actually wanted to come through and give a message. So they are shown here. There's also another couple of cards from this deck about other energies and supports in your spirit team that connect to whatever this message is. But it may well be, if you feel that there is a message that is necessary for you, if the topic draws to you, that may be a very strong sign about which particular reading to go to. Otherwise, it may be the colour, it might be the image, or you might have other ways of looking at it. This is a timeless reading, so it's the most urgent message for you from the Archangel realm for the moment that you see this. It also means that you could come back 6 months later and connect into a different message. So, that's very much up to you. But to sort of help beyond the archangels that came forward, I'll put down the numbers because some people feel drawn to that, and I think you would be connecting in. That would be your spirit team, and the archangels would know for you that if you always go to number 2, that this is going to be the one for you to listen to and so forth. So you do you on that, and you can certainly choose more than one if you want. There might be more than one archangel wanting to talk to you. So it's interesting because the archangels that came through, when I just look at this visually, what I get really strongly before talking about each pile is that I think these messages are about communication and relationship because of the blue colouring, and I think they're also about spiritual development, connection to the divine, all of those sort of things because of the purple colouring. I just feel that's what the archangels want to talk about. So it's either going to be things around your interactions with others and how you communicate and connect, or it may be about connecting the upper realms to your communication, your message, and so forth. Just on a really high level, I just think that's what they want to talk about at the moment. So for pile number 1, we have Archangel Haniel, which is talking about friendship, moon cycles, and psychic ability. For pile number 2, we have Archangel Jeremiah, which is about reflections, dreams, and visions. And for pile number 3, we have Archangel Raguel, which is about relationship healing, calm, and harmony. So if those particular areas of your life, or if one really calls to you or intrigues you, that's probably got something to do with it. But we are going to look into with tarot what the message is really about in that very broad range of what the archangels watch over. So you do you choose what one will actually fit for you. Just want to quickly say, in terms of communication, before I go into this, I do this occasionally in my readings in the introduction, just to sort of say that there are private readings available for anybody who would like them. The only way to get them is through my Etsy store. I have the link down in the description box here, and I also have it on the link section of my About page for my channel. If anybody ever seems to come to you saying they're me and saying, would you like a reading? That's not me. I understand this happens to tarot readers. I'm not sure if it's happened around me yet, but certainly I just want you to know that you choose, not the other way around. So don't get fooled by scammers. But if you do want a reading, no pressure. It's only if you ever do, then you can come via my Etsy store. So with that said, the timestamps for the 3 readings are in the description box below. When you know which reading or readings you want to go to, I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So the Archangel Haniel, as I said in the introduction, is the archangel connecting to this pile, to this part of the collective. And in broad terms, she looks after things like friendship, moon cycle, psychic ability, as I said. What I'm getting about this, and we'll see with tarot as to how it kind of either confirms this or nuances it in some way, is that I think that the message has something to do with the groups of people that you connect with and your gut instincts about them. Probably primarily friendships, but it could be, should a friendship become a love relationship? It could be around community sort of groups or things around work or something like that. But I feel like Haniel is here to sort of say that you should be trusting your psychic ability and your intuition to determine whether or not these are the right people to have. I'm feeling with the moon cycle that she's saying that some people in your life it's time to move on from. It's sort of the different sort of cycles of the moon, and there are others that are coming in, and even that you can set intentions with certain moon cycles around the sort of people that you want in your life. So if you are, say, in a workplace and you want to move to a new team and you want to bring in the right sort of energy for that, she is sort of saying that if you use the cycles of the moon and you set your intentions, you kind of sort of manifest that out into the universe at the times where that sort of thing happens, which is like the waxing crescent moon, for instance, and also the first quarter moon, and even like the new moon cycle where there is a kind of sense of withdrawing and reflecting and deciding what you want going forward. I just feel that for people in this reading, she wants to talk about how you align with your soul tribe, with the right people around you, and how you start to trust your intuition. Because I'm just getting that people who come here maybe don't always, maybe sort of have a gut instinct about someone, and if it's negative, they might think, oh, I'm being too judgmental, and then sort of not trust it, and then 6 months or 12 months later think, oh, I should have paid attention to that. So if that resonates for you, I just feel that this is about aligning to the right people. So let's see what Tarot wants to say. Let's sort of see anything either that will confirm that or nuance the sense that this is around relationship and your intuition about the people that you should have in your life. Wow, yeah. I definitely think that's what she wants to talk to you about. It's really interesting, like so much reversed here. That's not necessarily bad, but it does suggest that you are kind of suppressing your own psychic ability and your instincts about things. You don't like to make choices about people. It may be that some of you have been victim to that yourself. You might have been in a situation where people have made sort of spot sort of decisions about you, or they had criteria and you didn't fit. Like in school, you might have sort of been in the cool gang, for instance, and it wasn't fair. And those things never are. I mean, at that sort of stage, it's quite bizarre what sort of happens, and it's usually, I think, for lessons about these sort of things that we then take forward. But sometimes what can happen is that we understand and empathise, and I think with your psychic ability, you do empathise a lot with people. So I think you've been hurt where you haven't been understood, or you haven't been accepted, or you haven't been taken into certain friendships or groups or whatever it might be. It might even be applying for jobs and not getting interviews and so forth. So the last thing you'd ever do is do that to anyone else. And so you withhold a decision about things. And I think what Haniel wants to say is that's beautiful and gentle, but you're right that some of the relationships around you are not reciprocal. It means that you're actually drawing in friendships, work colleagues, bosses, could be anything. With the Emperor reverse, it could even be like a relationship with someone which is like a love relationship that's really out of whack, and they're very sort of like dominant in this relationship. And because you are kind of trying not to be judgmental, maybe trying to be really high vibrational and sort of not get to that level, I think Haniel is saying you're ignoring the signals, and it's taking away your strength. You are meant to be a lot stronger and starting to define, with the Ace of Wands here, you are meant to be defining who's in your life. And it's not you being not empathic. It's not you being a bad friend. It's not anything like that. It's just that your depth of generosity, and I think, as I say, this wish not to hurt anyone, and I think the reality about some of these people is it wouldn't even hurt them anyway if you cut them off, because the reality is they're so into themselves that everybody in their life around them is just kind of window dressing for their own self-reflection. There's definitely a sort of sense of some people that you've given far too much credence to and far too much support to. And they'll lap that up. They're kind of vampiric. So I think Haniel just wants you to really start to value yourself in friendships and trust your intuition. Because when you come across people and you feel a really strong, good, positive, warm, with Ace of Wands here, connection, you're going to be right. It's just that you're just so sort of like uncomfortable with the concept of judging others. But sometimes you need to. Sometimes behavior is behavior. You're not responsible, Pile 1, for them in that sense. So it's not as though you somehow have to, the only way to be high vibrational is to sort of rise above that. Sometimes bad behavior is bad behavior. And I just feel like you're around some people in some context, probably friendship circles, but it could be, it could be in a online community where there's a lot of passive aggressive bullying going on. It could be anything like that. But it's like trust your gut is very much the message that she's bringing. So let's ask a little bit more about what you need to consider. What do you need to sort of focus on to make the most of this message? Wow. Okay. So I'm getting something very specific. I'm going to say it's only going to apply to some, but I'm getting something very specific here that for some of you, this is a friendship circle that's getting in the way of a love match. Maybe it's competing around it. Maybe it's not wanting you to be happy. Maybe it's not wanting you to be with somebody. There's a lot of competition, but it's not competition that's valid, but it's nevertheless impacting this. There is actually, for some of you, and Haniel wants you to realize this and to use your psychic ability, a very significant and beautiful love match that is either in your world now but hasn't come into being because of other people getting in the way and other people's opinions, or is wanting to come in, but you need to shift some of your friendship circles to bring that energy in. So, and there are people around you, I have to say, that are not being honest with the magician reversed. So this is why this is an urgent message. I was really asking for urgent messages. There is a very good relationship that could come in, but there is a lot of interference. Now, this could be friends, as I say. I think for most it will be friendship or community groups or whatever, but for some it may even be family, like the sort of rules and who you're supposed to be with and so forth. There's something almost too conservative about this, and I don't mean that in a political way, though for some, if that fits, it could be. You could be very progressive and you could be around a lot of conservative people. That's a possibility. But I'm thinking more in terms of there's a kind of a don't act without the approval of others type of energy with this, but you're not looking for that approval in the right place. And Haniel wants you to know that there's something coming in that's much better for you, or there's something that you've already felt, but there's almost like a disapproval around it, or if not overtly that way, because there's a kind of a passive aggressive manipulative energy operating here. It could just be that people are sort of trying to persuade you. Actually, it's really funny. I've just literally started watching. I've got to go back and finish watching it. The latest version of Jane Austen's Persuasion that's on Netflix, and I kind of feel a similar sort of energy here when I look at it. It's like other people's views about who you should be with and so forth. But Haniel wants you to trust your own instincts, because you're right if it's about a relationship, and if it's not, it's about you're going to bring in much better sort of relationships by trusting your psychic ability. You're much more on point with this than you're giving yourself credit for. So let's get just 3 more cards for her overall advice, and then we're going to see what other archangel or god or sort of archetype energy is part of the spirit team to help you with this. So let's let Haniel talk very directly one more time around her sort of key advice to you, pile 1. Wow, yeah, she wants you to be free. There's so many reverse, and I say this is not bad. It's showing how much you're suppressing your own ability to read this. You're actually, all that empathy, all that psychic ability, you're really spot on about people, but you give yourself a really hard time. And as a result, other people get to sort of influence you when they shouldn't. This has come right from childhood. You've learnt these patterns probably in the family home. There may have been very very controlling sort of ways about who you should be with and how you should behave, and even how worthy you were of love or friendship or something like that, possibly from your paternal side with the King of Pentacles, but it doesn't have to be. It's that earthy energy, but it's not. It's like love for you, and I think this is what you kind of learnt maybe in childhood or even in the schoolyard or whatever, has been really conditional all the time. You could never really rely on it. It's like you have to meet the rules, you have to do what people think, whatever it might be. Haniel says be free of that. The real people are coming in, the real love is coming in, the real friendship is coming in. But you've got to, and anybody who's putting conditions on this, like I'll like you if you do this, or I'll approve of you if you do this, they're not to be relied on. There's definitely an energy around you which you need to to cut yourself some slack and literally cut it off to the degree that you can. Now, if this is in your family, you may not be able to completely sort of go no contact. I mean, some people do if it's really extreme, but I feel like this is more subtle. It's just more that if you're aware of it, Haniel believes if you start to trust your own instincts more than the others, that's all you really need to do, because that releases you from that influence. Okay, so let's have a look at what other archangels and energies or gods or goddesses were accompanying Haniel with this message. So we have Guru Ramdas and we have Archangel Christiel. So Guru Ramdas, this is about humility in the spiritual path, but also elevation. I think he's here to say that you maybe have been too much in the balance of humility. And there is still, you are in fact an elevated soul, and your spiritual practice is making you that way. You're not the sort of person, so you just give yourself such a hard time, Paul. You are not the sort of person who's going to be unfair. So kind of don't think that that's what's happening here. Your spiritual practice, I think you can connect more with people who are more in alignment with you. Some of you, this may be in a spiritual group, and you're starting to realize it's not what it appears to be. But certainly, you're never going to become this sort of like manipulative energy. So don't worry about that. And in being able to see it, that doesn't make you bad. That doesn't make you judgmental. It just makes you aware. Archangel Christiel here with higher consciousness, light and Christ light is very much saying that's what you should be aiming towards. So Haniel wants you to trust your own psychic ability and start to make those decisions so that you can access this higher consciousness more directly. I feel like something's jamming the circuitry a bit, and I feel like it's like these other people around you. You're very focused on the other person, Pawan, and that's lovely. But you also need to be focused on you. You need to get this sort of thing in balance. It's an important thing because there's something important coming in. Important connections, important love. Could be an important spirit guide that wants to come in, but they're being blocked almost by this kind of more limited and as I say, almost conservative sort of energy. So let's get you a little bit more information. Let's get you some light on your path through the Lantern Oracle. I mean, there's a lot of light coming through for you if you just start to trust your own ability. We've got intention. Lacking personal direction begets confusion and life as a pawn to someone else's game of chess. Yeah, this is about setting intentions. And I do think the moon cycles are somehow connected to this. Pay attention to that if that resonates for you. If not, then just do it now. Like sit down and write down what you would like. And even, write down what you sort of feel like, those sort of like kind of niggling sort of feelings you have about people, because there's going to be a clarity in that. It's all about you setting the intention. That's the key message here, for you to set the intention about the relationships around you and about how they interact with you. So let's ask what questions you could ask that's going to help with this. So we're using the Stories Oracle. This has constellations. Hard to read the questions, so I'm going to read them out before I put each down. So we're just going to ask Archangel Haniel for 2 questions that you could contemplate when you're sort of starting to trust your own psychic ability and your own intuition and your own gut instinct about people a little bit more. So firstly, we have Apis. What if your breakdown is your breakthrough? Okay, so if you feel when you go through some of this that there are some key relationships and you really need to cut cords or get separate to it, or if you've been feeling at the edge of something like that, like you don't feel you fit in or you don't understand what's going on, then this was all bringing you towards this awareness. Because if you track back, part 1, you're going to realize you knew this about these people right from day one. So it's meant to make you understand your ability and who you are. Okay, and a second question that could help you. Pisces, what if you believed in the power of your dreams? Yeah, your dreams. You can bring this in. Your psychic ability, things that you dream. If you are dreaming about a relationship coming in, then this is partly to open the doors to that so that you won't second guess it when it comes in. You are allowed to believe in your dreams. I just feel like people around you have eroded your self-confidence around this, and it's because you're so kind. I still feel really strongly like I want to kind of shake the energy around you so that you understand that about yourself. So let's get you a little bit of other star energy, sort of guidance from the stars or from numerology to help you as well with this message. 12th house. You may need to be quite private about this as you're setting your intentions and thinking about it. It may be that you have been too open with some people, too trusting with some people. A little bit of privacy until you've really sorted out what your instincts are saying could be helpful for you. There's also potentially for some of you with this relationship, if there's one coming in, there's a very strong past life connection. This is very precious energy. This is why Haniel wants you to really understand your ability. We have 11. Yes, your ability. You are very developed in all of this, but I just think you've either grown up somewhere that didn't believe in it, so you haven't sort of followed it, or you've been around others in a spiritual group who keep telling you they're more spiritual, but they're not. So there's like understanding that connection that you have. The connection to the higher consciousness is definitely there. And waxing crescent. So I talked about that before. This is one of the moon cycles, waxing crescent moon, which is where you set the new intentions. It's like once you understand, you can trust your ability, because it's not you kind of being sort of egotistical about it or thinking, that you're psychic and you're not or something. You actually are. Once you start to trust that and you start to believe in it, then you can set those intentions. But it is something maybe to do in private, because there's just a lot of white noise around you with people with their opinions and so forth. So don't sort of talk or do anything till you're ready, but trust your gut. So to finalise the reading, we're just going to ask the Enchanted Blossoms deck. We're going to ask Haniel to use that to give you a sense of what you can manifest when you really fully take heed of and work with the advice that she's given you today. Memory. Okay, so that's interesting. I think this is saying this goes back a long way, and it's actually a few things. I'm getting a few things. Firstly, that this pattern goes back a long way, and this is why I had a feeling there was something about childhood. Once you remember, this is why it's important to go back and think, what did I think about people, and then what actually happened? Memory, getting into that cycle, seeing what you did. This is to sort of like give you that sense and understanding and ownership of your views, rather than constantly sort of dealing with what other people are telling you. It gives you back a sense of self. I think it's also going to tap you into past life and things like that. You're going to have a real sense of who you are. You're going to remember who you are. But I also think for many of you, there's someone coming in that's important. Could be a friend, could be a soulmate, could be a lover, but there's something that has a past life connection, and this is precious. This is why it's important for you to start to trust your own ability, because there's just an energy around you. And I think it's, in friendship circles, community groups, whatever it might be, spiritual groups, that would dissuade you from what you know. But if you go into your memory and you see those patterns, then you're going to connect to this energy when it comes in. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So we have Archangel Jeremiah here, who is the main archangel who has a message for you today. And as I said in the introduction, with the purple colouring there, some of the sort of imagery, like the sort of the all-seeing eye, all of those sort of kind of energies around it, there's a sense that this is really about connection to the higher realms. Could be interdimensional, could be within a spiritual system or whatever. But I think what Archangel Jeremiah, what I'm getting that he is bringing to the table here is that there are some very important dreams, visions, symbols, archetypes, those sort of things that he's trying to download to you, because it's important either to your spiritual journey, or it could be important to something very pragmatic as well. But I think he's calling on you to have trust in that and to pay attention to it. I'm certainly getting that if you have interesting dreams, keep a dream journal, do that sort of thing, unless you tend to remember them. I tend to remember any powerful dreams I have, but not everybody does. So, if you know that you dream and then you forget about it, then he's definitely saying write it down. You're going to see patterns. You're going to see something that's coming through. I feel like there's very strong visual symbols for you. It's a very visual thing. It's archetypes that you see. It's colours that you see that are somehow meant to give you a sense of yourself or of the next step on a journey, or something that's key. It may even be about sort of relationships and so forth. We will see with tarot, we'll get more of a sense about what area in your life this is most likely he's trying to reach you on. But pay attention to that. It might be things like lucid dreaming, learning, that practice and so forth. to make you more in control of where and you go and what you do within your dreams, because it could be a mastery he's calling on you to do. But there's certainly something in relation to that. I'm also getting that if you don't remember your dreams, or you don't sort of seem to dream, because some people don't, then do meditation. And I get very strongly do it with music or something like that. There's on YouTube and other things like that, you can get music to listen to while meditating. You can also get guided meditations, but I'm getting here not to do that, because often with guided meditations, they tell you where to go and what you're seeing and everything. It's a little bit too prescriptive. I think Jeremiah was saying here that you need to tap into your particular symbolic and spiritual language, because that's how it's going to be most powerful for you. So let's use tarot to see if we can get a bit more about the sense of what part of your life, or what the message might be that he's trying to bring you from, the higher realms, very much right up there. Wow, okay. For some of you, I'm getting either in this life or maybe in a past life, you've been involved in very specific spiritual practice. You may be in this life as well. You may follow a particular creed. What he is saying is that cost you to some degree, because you are sort of a bit different to that. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to leave something, if you following Christianity or, Islam or something like that. It's not saying leave it, but it is saying think about how that's processing, how that information's coming to you. Or it may be, as I say, picking up something from a past life that wants to come through, where maybe you were an iconoclast about something like that, and that cost you something. There's something about your spiritual practice and spiritual ability, and it's not conventional, but I feel like some of you, spent past lives in monasteries or as Sufis or something like that. There's that sort of energy around you, and there's something connected to that he's saying is trying to come through to you now. And I think, and it may be in this life you're in much more unconventional areas, but understanding that kind of spiritual discipline and the sacrifice that you put into it, there's something about that, because there's a high degree of independence here. It's like, and material independence. So for some of you, this could be coming because you are sort of, leaving a relationship and you're, reestablishing yourself. For some, you might be leaving a particular spiritual group to do something that's more true to yourself, to have a new beginning. For some, you may be looking at, doing something in a business, and a new business, and bringing something in. But the sun is reversed here, and I feel that's just saying that at the moment there's something where you're not fully seeing your light. Like there's a lot there, but it's almost, I feel like maybe even in this life that you've sacrificed a lot. And I do think in other lives you've sacrificed a lot around following spiritual traditions. And I think he's saying that is all connecting you. You're connected very strongly to the upper realms, but you're meant to do something more different this time around, and not kind of like almost sacrifice your life path for some bigger sort of religious or spiritual thing. Like I'm getting, as I say, like Sufism. I'm getting the Christians, in the sort of early sort of battles and so forth around, the birth of Christianity. I'm getting, the Knights Templar. I'm getting all of those sort of things. There's something about that. But the point about it is that in this life now, firstly, you are meant to use your spiritual gifts and your reflections, on a spiritual level, but also on a very material level. For some of you, this is precisely because you could create a new approach, a new creative thing. It could be a tarot deck creator, for instance, and you're meant to do that. You're bringing in something that was sort of like very, very sort of like long-term learned, but you need to also show what's unconventional, putting your spin on it. It could be starting a spiritual business. It could be in the material world, bringing a different spiritual approach to something and maybe processing it through work culture or something like that. But there's Archangel Jeremiah wants you to get in touch with your dreams and visions. This is why I got so strongly your visual language, your symbolic language, not necessarily that which was in other traditions. So it's like what works for you, and it might be an amalgam of things. And that, as I say, could either be something you do in a business overtly or as a kind of underpinning, or it could be something that that makes you determine in a material level who you want to be in this world, and processes some kind of almost hiding yourself away type of energy that maybe occurred in other lives. So let's ask, what do you really need to consider in relation to this? What is Archangel Jeremiah really asking you to think about? Okay. For a start, you guys are as loyal as hell. Like, you are really loyal. This is sort of one of the things I think that, you know, in whether it's in spiritual traditions you're in now or whether it's been before, you take on a cause. It's got a very Grail Knight type of feeling, particularly with the Knight of Cups, even though it's reversed there. There's a sort of sense of you've had a kind of spiritual mission over many lives, and it's in this life, whether it's materially occurring or whether it is in some other way. For some of you, there is a definite decision about leaving a group or a relationship or something in independence, and you have to think about what is blocking that for you at the moment. It's kind of your loyalty, your commitment, and the fact that you just don't give up. And that energy is great if you're creating something new, but at the moment I think Jeremiah is just asking you whether you're holding on to something, maybe an emotional situation that's no longer giving you a return, that you know, like there's emotional issues that you're reluctant to move away from, to give up on. So for some, this could be about a relationship. It could be playing out around a relationship that is no longer right for you, but you feel like you have to be there for commitment's sake. You might have obligations that are very material, or just might be that you just don't like to give up, because this is the energy. I mean, you have been able to elevate self-sacrifice to an art form, pile two, and that's wonderful in many ways, but it is limiting, I think, what you're trying to do now. I think that Jeremiah is asking you to go to dreams and visions to get guidance on, is this something you should be sticking with, or is it something that you should be letting go so that you can bring in the new? Is there a way to bring in the new with this that revolutionizes it and gets rid of kind of emotional energies that aren't operating anymore? Or is it something that you really should just say, okay, it's okay to let go? Because you're not communicating what you think at the moment, and you're blocking some of this communication. It's the interesting thing is that I feel that you've spent many lives and even in this life around spiritual stuff, but you're actually blocking some of this. That's why I sort of wondered whether some of you don't think you dream. You probably do, but then meditation is a way. There's kind of unblock that energy. Let those visions come through and trust your spiritual language, as I say. So before we look at who else is in the spirit team and what they're bringing to this particular message with Jeremiah, let's just ask for his sort of like overarching advice. Just 3 more tarot cards for that. Okay, for some of you, this is to bring in new love, new beginnings and so forth. So it may be that you need to either let go of a relationship so you can bring that in and be independent and ready for it, or it might be you need to let go of patterns that aren't working so that it can be revived. But either way, there is a necessity to allow the new in. And you can only do that if you break with this sort of loyalty, you know, maybe even to things right from your childhood and so forth. With the 6 of Cups here reversed, there's a sort of sense of you know, there could even be relationships around your family and stuff that you need to kind of either walk away from into some degree or recalibrate, because it's not sort of working anymore. But if otherwise it's patterns, it's like what you learnt, great deal of loyalty that you learnt in your childhood. But you are meant to connect to your inner knowing. It's saying it again. It fits absolutely with the sense I had with the colouring of this, that this is about connection to the higher realms. You are able to do that, and that will bring this energy in, but you're resisting it for some reason. And I think part of it is that, as I say, you're just so loyal to anything that you actually bring in that sometimes it's time to let go and be free. And I think there's an energy there, but your spiritual knowing will help you with that. So let's see what other archangels or energies are around to help you with this. We have Baba Yaga. Wow. And we have the Archangel Raziel. Oh, yeah, you're definitely connected to the upper realms, pole 2. Definitely. I think you've spent many lifetimes doing this. Whether or not this lifetime is the one you have to do that, I think this lifetime is more material and more about relationship. So you don't have to be so, as I say, monastic or dedicated to a cause, a spiritual cause. It's natural to you. It sort of could be just inculcated, but you're not necessarily seeing that in yourself. You're thinking you have to go through particular sort of like spiritual practices or whatever. I think it's really in you already. And I think Archangel Raphael was to say, yeah, you already know about the mysteries and so forth. You're already connected. You have that knowledge. And again, if you access it, your symbolic language will be powerful. I'm actually getting that for some of you. If you do things like meditation, as I say, use music, see what's coming up, then go and look up some of the symbols, because I think you're going to find that they connect to particular traditions. And I think it will tell you something about the traditions that you have developed this in. It's not necessarily saying you have to go back into that again. It's just saying understanding that to start to understand your ability. Baba Yaga here, the wise and wild woman, she's witchy, so there could be witchy energy as well too. This sort of feels monastic, and the people of the book, as I say, sort of Islam and Judaism and Christianity or something like that. This feels more pagan. So I think it might be even saying here, this group might be saying there's a mashup of all of this because you've had those sort of experiences. That will be what is unique and different to you. But you have to start to trust that. You have to give up on loyalties to things that you've outgrown, whatever that means to you, Pile 2. So let's get you some light on the pathway with the Lantern Oracle. Confusion. Growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through the uncertainty. So it could be that there is some uncertainty at the moment. Maybe you are now sort of separated and you never expected to be. And so there's sort of like a sense of, well, what do I do now? Because I sort of thought my pathway was this one thing, and now there's something new and I'm not sure. It could be that you've met somebody that kind of like has made you rethink things, and now you're not sure. Confusion could be there. It could also be that you're getting lots of dreams and visions and you're not sure what they mean. But this is all meant to start to give you a sense about shaking off that which doesn't work anymore so that you can bring in the new, Pile 2. This is also, I think, why it's so important to trust your own inner knowing and to understand your inner high priestess, because it does look, as I say, like you're feeling a bit confused. Let's therefore see if we've got some questions that could be helpful for you to ask to find your way through any confusion that this is causing. So I'm asking Archangel Jeremiah now with the Stories Oracle to help me find 2 questions that are really pertinent to finding this new energy and to working out what you should be loyal to and what you should sort of move on from. So firstly, we have Pegasus, and the question is, I'll read it to you because it's very hard to read it on camera. What if loving even the undiscovered parts of ourselves is the greatest act of revolution we are capable of? So there's something, you are very much, I have made an oath, I will live by the cause, I will be loyal, even if it isn't anymore feeding you. But I think there's a side of you that felt that was the only way to be spiritual. And I think Archangel Jeremiah and Baba Yaga and Raziel here are telling you, no, in fact, you are more developed than you think, and loving yourself and allowing the new in, and what that means with, say, the 9 of Pentacles, you sort of separate to everybody else, separate to creed and oath and all of those sort of things. There's something in there that's important for your development at this stage. I'm actually getting, for some of you, you may have suffered, you may have literally been sacrificed for pagan beliefs at some point as well. So there's a kind of a fear in some ways as well underlying everything about the degree of your ability and your knowledge and so forth. So, but loving that rather than feeling that you have to just accord with a particular viewpoint or way. I mean, some of you may even have almost been incredibly secular and said nothing about religion anymore. I mean, I don't know how many people like that would come to tarot readings, but that's possible as well. But like getting back in contact with your true connection is important. We also have Centaurus. What if you spent your life on something that will outlast it? Okay, I actually think this is a balance of these questions. I think that you have spent your life quite often on things where there was something that was a legacy, something that would outlast it. But I think you've done it in groups. I think you've done it for a cause. I think you've done it for a religious group. You may even be doing it now in organisations or in community groups or whatever it is. But I think this is saying that there's something new you could bring in with that Ace of Pentacles and Ace of Cups that would also outlast it. I'm getting for some, it may be a divine union, and then there's children that come from it, and there's a sort of generational spiritual lineage that you can create that is unique, that isn't sort of set into concrete in sort of existing sort of spiritual approaches. But for others, it's like you will really do something. You will really leave a legacy much more when you actually follow your own intuition in some way. Okay, so let's get you some other advice from either astrology or numerology. Libra, it's about balance. It's about balance. You have a very strong sort of social justice, do the right thing sort of energy about you, and you will always do that. You're not going to sort of go off on some sort of pathway that's really, really selfish or anything like that. But it is about balance. It's somehow out of balance. This is what Archangel Jeremiah is trying to send you dreams and visions on, to understand that. We also have waxing crescent moon. So this is setting new intentions, new seeds. What do you want to do? These two aces, it's a double ace, it's a double blessing if you allow this energy in. So look for symbols and language within your dreams and visions that is about new growth in some way. I'm not going to say too much more than that because I don't want to influence it. It's important you find it, but there is something about the new. Then there is also the first house, because this is who you're meant to be in the world. This is what you're meant to show the world. Something new, something that is you, rather than something that just fits a creed or another way of doing things. Okay, so to finish off, we want to just see what, with the Enchanted Blossoms deck, what could be the sort of highest manifestation of this advice? What could you really bring in that would sort of respond to and take the best energy out of Jeremiah's advice to you? Endurance. So that's really interesting. I think that maybe what this is saying is that sometimes in some lives, or even in this life, maybe sometimes you felt you had to keep proving endurance, and that was to stick to the creed or whatever you'd sort of started with, or staying in a workplace even if it isn't working, whatever it is. The interesting thing, I think, is that Archangel Jeremiah is saying is once you've calibrated to what your true pathway is, it's going to be easier. Endurance almost just becomes the flow. It's almost like you'll get your second wind. So if you could imagine yourself at the moment, it's like you're running in a marathon and you're kind of like the Nine of Wands energy, because it's not really your marathon and it's not really your race, in whatever that means to you. And so it's sort of like, can I do it? Can I get to the end? But yes, I'm determined. Can I do it? Whereas I think the real endurance comes when you're on your pathway. And then, as I say, when you hit that point, you're going to get the second wind. So I think Archangel Jeremiah is saying when you start to pay attention to your truth and your energy and your visions, you will be able to stay the course in whatever it is you choose. And so you can take things from that double ace through to their culmination, through to their payoff. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So Archangel Raguel is the messenger in this reading, as I said in the introduction. And I definitely think with the sort of colouring and with the sort of like area that this Archangel looks over, there is a sort of sense of communication, throat chakra sort of issues potentially with the blues. But also this is about relationship and connection, because the Archangel Raguel looks over relationship healing in particular and bringing calm and harmony. So I think that this is going to be about either you healing from a relationship that has been difficult, possibly one you need to move on from, or one that you need to shift or change. I think for others, it might be that you're in a contentious or difficult environment, team dynamics at work or sort of friendship circles or whatever. And Archangel Raguel is here to give you information and support to do what I think is natural to you, which is to be a mediator or a healer, either, as I say, of yourself or of others, and to bring calm and harmony. So certainly for those of you that have been suffering from relationship issues, Archangel Raguel is here to help you bring calm and to heal. But I think that you're here to do that more generally in some way with people that are close to you or people that you work with or even as a profession. So I think that there's a message to do with that energy and your abilities as well, Pile 3. So let's use tarot to get a little bit more of an idea about the specifics of where this message is impacting your life and what Archangel Raguel really wants you to focus on right now. So there's definitely, for many of you, there's something about a relationship which is in the balance. There's a very potentially critical, cold, icy, difficult sort of relationship around you, or one where the communication is not clear at all. It may be, I'm getting that for some of you, if this is around a relationship where someone is very withdrawn, has walked away, has gone no contact, or is very, very critical, like every time you try and do anything is very, very critical. I think Raguel might be saying in that case, this is one to move away from because it doesn't feel like it's resolvable. So if it's a very specific friendship or love relationship like that, Raguel is here to bring you the calm and the healing that comes from saying, I will heal myself and move on. But for others, this is definitely saying you are a healer, but it's a healer in that way. You're a healer around dynamics. You're a negotiator, you're a mediator, you're a conflict resolution person, something like that. And this is, you're really starting to build your skill in relation to this. You're really starting to sort of see the recipe really for it, I feel like, how this could work. And there are potentially people around you that try and block some of what you could bring and the choices that are there, but it's like you can move into this environment, friendships or otherwise, and bring a new recipe, really, a new way of connecting, a new way of the ingredients coming together. This feels very alchemical, feels like you have an alchemical ability. It's one, I think, that you have brought in from past lives. You are just naturally very, very balanced, but it's like Raguel wants to talk to you about this because it's like sort of someone or the environment that you're in tries to block the frequency on that. So it may be saying that you need to sort of like complete the environment you're in, learn from that and move to something else. Or it may be saying that you step into a role in some way. Some of you may get promoted and be in a position to shift a work culture, for instance. But there'll be some pushback, but that just helps you clarify what should stay and what should go. And it's saying that you need to go through that process before you know. So for some of you, if there's sort of like some toxic environment around you with people in your work environment, say, or friendship circle, it may be their own insecurity and their own incapacity to make decisions that's sort of like getting in the way of this. And it might be once you've gone through the whole cycle of, as I say, mediating, that's what it feels like, and sort of looking at what this sort of outcome is, where all the different skills and abilities and dreams and visions of people can be brought together. That may shift this energy. The Queen of Swords may turn around. It may become then a very positive thing. I've certainly seen that happen in my career around negotiations, where when you go into them, you eventually find that two people or two groups are actually talking about the same thing. They've just used different language. They've understood the material outcomes differently. They've seen the choice differently in some way. So there's definitely a feeling like that around this for some of you, that this is about that. But for others, I think it's about you healing your own relationship after maybe something that's been difficult. And whether it was the person, say, that you were in love with, or whether it was somebody who was sort of like being a naysayer to what you cared about, you are meant now to heal and to come into the calm and to understand how much knowledge and how much ability you have in this area anyway, that you can use for yourself as well. So let's ask what you need to consider for this particular message right now, because I feel for you this is a skill you're going to have that's going to come up and be used many, many times in one form or another. But what does Archangel Raguel really want you to consider right now? Okay, Archangel Raguel is saying there is something in your environment at the moment, whether it is, as I say, work, friendships, love, whatever it is, that is really blocking your energy and your natural ability. Big time. There's certainly, it looks like there's someone who is doing this to some degree, and I think it's, through critique or through second guessing or through mind games. He wants you to see that you have so much energy and so much growth that you could do and so much freedom you could have, but you're putting a lot of energy into a debate, I feel, or a difference of opinion or something that is blocking that in some way. Your own inner knowing, your own psychic ability is really strong. You know that there's something not quite right going on here with the moon there, but you also know that all the truth hasn't come out, and that there is an energy around this in a relationship, personal relationship, friendship, love, or in a workplace or a friendship group where there will be a little bit of a struggle to bring that energy out, to bring it to the surface. You are more than capable of doing it, but there is a pushback operating because there's some people around this, a loved one that you are involved with, community group, work group, whatever it is, that kind of are a bit in love with their own emotional discontent. They kind of have stopped believing there are options, and they almost kind of enjoy that. There's almost a sense of victimhood around it. So you could be in a friendship with someone who just almost loves to feel hard done by, and you're trying to get them to sort of alchemize and heal, and they're in love with being, disappointed. They're in love with victimhood. It could be in a work group where people feel that way, like they don't really have the options, and in a weird way they think it's pragmatic and it's strong and it's smart to just be really cynical. But there's stuff underneath this, and it is possible to release that energy in whatever form this is occurring. It may be, if it's in a love relationship and this person really is in love with misery, that it's release yourself for something else and allow yourself the healing. If it's a friendship that's like that, it might be you can try what you can, but they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. If that's the case, don't doubt your own ability. Just that tells you all that you need to know. So there's kind of a process, I think, that Raguel is talking to you about, which is using all your skills and ability, which are considerable in this place, to define what's really going on. Then you will know, can you release this energy, or is it stuck because the person or people concerned just love being miserable? There's a kind of like almost a get out of jail free card by being a victim all the time or something, and you're beyond that. So I think this is how you'll find it out. So let's ask for 3 more cards just for very specific advice about this situation. Okay. There's definitely a sense here where Archangel Raguel is saying you need to relieve a burden from yourself. And your way of doing it, I think, is to test this out to see if it can heal. And if not, then if that cannot happen, then you just let it go. Get enough information to make that decision and then decide, but don't make it a burden. It's like give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Don't keep holding back. Don't hold yourself back. Don't stop your own sort of trajectory forward to continually try and fix this. It's like it's either fixable or it's not. And if it's not, just let it go because it's holding you back. So, and it's putting a burden on you shouldn't have. It's coming to some degree because of your ability here. You may feel really frustrated. This just might be a friend who, you just cannot get through to because they, as I say, they love misery. It could be something like that, or it could be a workplace where you feel like, seriously, everybody is kind of like arguing with each other, but they're all after the same thing. What's going on? It's a testing time. This is what Archangel Raguel is saying, using your skill, but being ready to have the exit door in whatever that means to you. And look, if it's in a workplace, you may not be able to leave the workplace. It just might be that you've got to at some point go, I have this skill, but the people aren't ready. So if that's the case, you can't do anything. I'm not going to take responsibility for it anymore. I'm going to detach a bit so that I'm not held back by it. But if it's a love relationship, it's whether it can be resolved or not. If it's a friendship, it's whether or not it can be resolved. And I think, for different people that come here, the answer will be different for that. But you definitely have the skill. That's why you have to trust that. Because if you can't solve it, it can't be solved. Pile 3, that's the point. And don't beat yourself up if it can't. Because as I say, some people just... they like that. They like to be stuck. They think it's smart. They think cynicism is intelligence. And it's not, but they think that way. And if that's what they need to get through the day, ultimately, they might like that more than actually fixing the situation. So you make that assessment. So let's see what other archangels or gods or energies are around to help Raguel get this message to you and to help you. So we've got Goddess Isis. Wow, see, you're powerful. And Sekhmet, boy, are you powerful. Okay, so this is two goddesses, and one is about resurrection magic, fertility, and sort of shifting things. So I think Goddess Isis is over that which you can resolve. You can bring that in, you can resurrect, you can sort of breathe new life back into something that had got stuck in some sort of way. So there is the possibility for that. And you will have the tenacity to do that if you need to, and you will go to the appropriate lengths to do that. You know, she did that to help her brother, I think it was, who had been Osiris, who had been cut into pieces. Brother or husband? I'm not sure. I can't remember the mythology exactly. But in any case, there is a sense there that she did what was necessary to resurrect that energy. So you certainly, if it's possible, you will do it. But Sekhmet, who is about fierceness and also around kind of rebuilding, destruction or rebuilding, makes the decision about whether or not something can be fixed. And she, in other decks I've seen, can be about reduction, bringing things back to first principles. So I think it's a kind of crash through or crash energy here. This is either going to work or it's not. And it's not your fault. If anybody could fix it, it's you, but you just need to get the information to know if it's fixable in whatever level it is. So let's get you some light on the path with the Lantern Oracle. Home. May your body be where a harmonious balance of love, strength, light, and pleasure lives. So for many of you, this may be in your home. This may be in very close relationships. Your workplace may be your home. Your friendships may be your home. But I think this is also, to me, I'm feeling like this is tilting towards the fourth house in your astrology chart, which is the home life. There's probably some abilities that you've learned from your family and so forth, and your genetic sort of ancestral line that make you very well sort of set to do this. But I also feel whatever that, if you know your chart, whatever the sign is there and potentially any planets that are there, they will give you some further information about how to use this energy to its best point. I wouldn't mind betting that, you know, you've either got something like Libra in the fourth house for sort of balance and harmony, or potentially Pisces for sort of empathy and caring, or even earth signs to really kind of balance something out and make it practical. There's just a sort of sense that the base of your chart, the base of your personality, where you are at home, and seeing whether you can feel at home with this or whether it's not fixable, that's part of the guidance for you about this. We're also going to ask the Archangel Raguel to give us a couple of questions that would be helpful for you to ask using the Stories Oracle. It's hard to read the questions on this, so I'm going to read them out before placing the cards down. So the first question that could be helpful for you in determining what to do with this energy and your abilities is, Corona Borealis, what if you were in charge of your life this whole time? Yeah, so if you have felt kind of caught in these sort of dynamics, the reality is you have the ability to determine what is right and wrong around this, to determine what is worth and can be fixed and what can't. You have an ability that is rare, and I think the Archangel Raguel wants you to know that. Then second question is, Centaurus, what if you spent your life on something that will outlast it? That actually came up for another, so you may have gone to more than one. So there is something that you could use this skill for. So I think there's almost a kind of don't throw good after bad here. It's like, see if you can fix the situation. If not, move on, because your ability could create something else. Your ability is kind of like, you know, a Gandhi or something like that. I'm not saying you have to go and do sort of political sort of, you know, changes or whatever, but there's a sense of that kind of grand alchemist bringing harmony into relationships, you know, resolving issues. You could create something greater than yourself. So don't slow that down. Don't let this energy and burden take away your destiny. The Chariot card is destiny, amongst other things. And with it reversed, Raguel, I think, is maybe saying if you spend a lot of time on energies that don't want the help, then you may not be following your destiny to help those that are ready for that, who are ready for your guidance. Okay, so let's see what other astrological and numerological energy could be helpful to you. 7th house. There could be a very key relationship in association with this. It's certainly how you relate to others. And that may be a big part of who you are in the world, how you relate to others. Your genius is in the 7th house matters. It's in relationship. So, but it could also bring in a very key relationship if you follow your destiny or pathway around this. Because you could, with the 2 of Cups there, by dealing with all this stuff, if it's distracting you, it could be stopping you from finding a very significant relationship as well. So don't feel you have to be there past the point of no return. Like, use your assessment about the situation, use your discernment and your discretion. Secondly, we get Earth. So I think this could be something you can do as a career, whether you've thought about it or not. And that could be any number of careers. It could be being a mediator, a conciliator, a judge, a barrister, any of those sort of things. It could also be sort of someone who does this sort of relationship counselling, that kind of thing. So there's something earthy, something material you can make from this. And 4th house. Oh, yeah, there's something about home. As I say, there may be a very strong ancestral line for some of you around this sort of ability, but it may also be that you will be most at home when you are in that role. You are born to do this, but that is why it's important not to get distracted by those that aren't ready for the help. Maybe sometime they will come back and they will be ready, but that's not your responsibility. All you can do is offer this really innate ability that you have to a very high degree. Offer it, see if it works, move on, because you have a destiny to fill. You have something beyond yourself and even this life to put in place, and it is so integral to you. I would say Archangel Raguel is a major archangel for you, full stop, not just right now. Okay, so to finish off, I want to use the Enchanted Blossoms deck just to get a final sort of manifestation, what you can get from listening to Archangel Raguel's message at this point in time. Inspiration. Yeah, to inspire you to understand who you are, because this is not common. This ability is not common, but it's really needed in this world. So seriously, seriously, like people like you really need to be focused on where you can do the most and really sort of achieve the most, because this sort of ability is rare and very, very needed. I think you will inspire others, but I also think that understanding this about yourself gives you the inspiration to make the right decisions and to take that ability as far as you can take it, and potentially inspire to bring in the right relationship, all of those things as well. So Pile 3, I hope that reading resonates for you. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.